So the actual title of this video should be why you should never work at your family business at first. And while this is kind of about your family business, it's actually really about you. So let's jump into it. First of all, why would you listen to me? Well, I have a decade of experience working in my own family business. I worked there for 3 years out of school. I worked 3 years externally at another company, and then I came back and worked there for another 8 years. Today, I work as a family enterprise advisor, so I work with other families, advising them on how to chart a path to a brighter future. So what we're going to talk about in this video is the real problem, my experience, and my recommendations. So let's lay things out. Why do people choose to work in their family businesses? Well, it's usually for a host of different reasons. Sometimes for ease and comfort. It's a place they know. It's a place that people know them. So it makes sense. It's easy to come back to. For other people, it's really because of the opportunity, the ability to grow their career, the ability to advance and get promoted in a place where their name is known. And these are completely understandable reasons on why you would choose to work for your family business. I mean, really, when you look at the two, depending on your personality, I mean, who wouldn't choose this? But what this misses is the chief psychological barrier that the rising generation faces, and that's self-differentiation. So self-differentiation from Bowen's family theory is, and I'll read it out to you, is finding out who you are independently from your family of origin. So what does this mean? Fundamentally, this is really about having an identity that is whole and separate from your family of origin. And this is adopted from Bowen's family theory, which is really for families. But the issues and problems that Bowen's family theory is trying to overcome are just heightened within the context of a family enterprise or a family business, because the relationships, the stakes are even higher. Everything's multiplied. And so if everything's multiplied, then it's even harder for people to find their own way, to be their own person, to have an identity that's separate, that's whole, that is full outside of their family business and outside of their family. And so what's the problem? The problem is that right at the developmental stage, when young adults are becoming young professionals, when they're beginning to find themselves, the gravity of the family business kind of keeps them pulled back in. They're pulled back in by the ease and comfort or the advancement or various other forms of support. And so they don't differentiate. They don't find themselves and they don't get that identity. And this creates a lot of issues moving forward. And so what does this gravity look like? Well, it kind of takes a variety of shapes and forms, and it'll all be unique to the circumstance and the culture of the family. But it can look like summer internships. It can look like having your school fully paid for, and it could look like just getting a job straight out of school. But what does this create? Well, the outcome of this, and this is a big part of it, is when you're growing up, there's a parent to child relationship. And as you progress into becoming an adult, it's really important that that parent-child relationship progresses to an adult relationship. They'll always be your parents, but you relate to one another as adults. But the problem in a family business when you work there right out of school is that you don't fully separate. There's not enough space. There's not enough separation for people to be able to develop on their own. And so what happens is that adult relationship, it never develops. It stays a parent-child relationship. And what happens then is if you're in a working relationship with your parents and it's still a parent-child relationship, it's really, really common to crave acknowledgement. And that's a really unhealthy relationship dynamic, irrespective of whether you're working together or not. But certainly it's not great for you and your career. It's not great for how you're feeling at work, and it's not great for how you relate to your parents. But most importantly, what is this gravity, this lack of separation? What's the outcome for you? Well, the big problem is that your self-identity doesn't develop. You don't have the space to build self-confidence and identity. When people say, or when they think you're only here because of your last name, you don't have that much to fall back on, which is where the golden rule comes in, which is for any member of a family that has a business, it's super helpful for you to work externally anywhere between 2 to 5 years, because this gives you the space to learn, to be somewhere where people don't all know your last name, and to generate in yourself a self-belief that, you know, you are gainfully employed, that you are a part of this company, that you can do useful things. You can gain the certainty that you belong, that you believe that when you do come back to your family business, that it is worthwhile for you to be there, that even if people say things like you're only here because of your last name, that you know what what's true. And it's really, really helpful to have had external work experience to understand that for yourself. I know this for myself personally. I mean, that was my experience. And so a bit of story time going into my experience. I had the same problem. I worked in my family business right after graduating, and I worked there for 3 years. And, I did wonder, am I good enough? Am I just here because of my last name? And when people would ask me that question, I wouldn't have a great answer, and I wouldn't really feel great about it either. It just so happened that I wanted to learn about a new industry that I hadn't worked in directly, and that was real estate development. And so I worked at another real estate development firm for 3 years. And when I was there, I cut my teeth. I worked really hard. I learned so much. But what it really gave me was an understanding that, hey, this company wants me here. They like me as part of the team. I'm contributing. I'm capable. And fundamentally, I believe in myself. I can do this. And so that meant when I went back to my family business, it just gave me a whole different level of confidence in myself and my abilities and what I could bring to the company and to the department and my colleagues. And there's another important thing that this gave me that I didn't realize, which was, well, you only have one experience. Imagine if you had only ever seen one movie in your life and I told you to review that movie. Well, it's really, really hard because you have a sample of one. You have nothing to compare it to. It's only after watching a lot of movies, a lot of TV shows, a lot of whatever media that you can compare and contrast and understand whether you think it's good or bad. So what I realized after working externally and coming back to my family business is it gave me a ton of perspective on what was good and what was bad. And so specifically what it gave me was that I was taking for granted certain things at my family business that were not common at other companies. And that was really helpful for me to begin to understand that and to become aware of my blind spots. There are things that I took for granted. And so if you have the opportunity, do work elsewhere, which brings me to my recommendations. And there's really two categories. Category one is if you haven't jumped into a job yet, you're early in your career or you're just graduating. Category two, and I'm sure some of you probably are watching this, I haven't forgotten about you. Category two is if you're already working in your family firm. Don't worry, you are not doomed, and I have not forgotten you, and there are certainly things that you can do. So early career, if you're early in your career, go work somewhere else. Take 2 to 5 years. Learn and grow as a person early in your career. You won't be drinking from a fire hose and learning like this at any other point in your career. So enjoy it. Don't feel the need to be an expert. And this is really important. This is a time where you get to figure out what you like and what you don't like. The only way to figure out whether you like a job is to do it. What they are in practice versus what you think they are in theory are often very different. So this is an opportunity to understand for yourself who you are. What does that look like at work? What type of work do you like doing? And just some short advice here. We often think of goals. We just want to get to the end. But most of our life isn't spent at the goals. It's spent on the journey. So it behooves us, it behooves you to enjoy the journey. So category two is you're already working in your family firm. If you feel self-differentiated, if you have a strong sense of your self-worth and a strong sense of your own capabilities and confidence in yourself, that is awesome. That's great. And I'm so happy for you. Don't follow my advice. You don't have to work elsewhere. But if this isn't the case and you aren't feeling fully confident in your self-identity and understanding who you are, well, it can be helpful for you to work elsewhere. You can build experience in areas where your family firm doesn't have experience. That's super valuable. You can choose to consider to do that by way of a secondment or a short career change. But if you want to stay at your family business and you don't want to go anywhere, there's a few things for you to consider. You can consider further executive education by way of an MBA or possibly an EMBA. And what these will give you is a broadening of your knowledge. And importantly as well, broadening your network and the people that you know, which can be super valuable for you in your career and to your family business. So in sum, go work elsewhere. I sincerely hope this was helpful. If it was, please consider liking and subscribing. I'm told that will help with the algorithm. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What's your story? Please hit me up there. I'd love to read them and I'd love to respond. And if you're interested in working with me and you want to get in contact with me, links are in the description. That's all for today. Until next time.